14th chapter begins the story of Shimshon. We have learned, of course, that he is going to be a child who is going to be a Nazir. And we saw in the last verse of chapter 13 that God had started to appear to him. And not in a physical presence, but the Spirit of the Lord is moving him, is inspiring him. And so, like most people who the Spirit of the Lord inspires, that's what we see that Shimshon begins with. That was supposed to be a joke. You'll see in a second. Vayered Shimshon Timnata. Shimshon went down to Timnah. Vayar Isha Batimnata Mibnot Plishtim. And he notices a girl amongst the Philistine women. Right? I don't think that that's usually what the Spirit of God is supposed to move you to, is to go and find a foreign woman. Vayal, he goes back up. Vayagela Vivulimo, he goes and tells his father and mother, Vayomar, Ishara iti batimna mi bnot Plishtim. He said, I saw a woman amongst the daughters of the Philistines. Viata kechu ota li lisha. So now take her for me as a wife. And it's obviously problematic, which is part of the whole nature and the idea of Shimshon. Here we have this guy who's supposed to be Hachel Lahushiat Yisrael, who's supposed to save Israel. Last time I checked, while there are many organizations who are dedicating a lot of money to Jews who are intermarrying, the general way of solving the problems of the Jewish community and their spiritual decline is not by going and marrying a woman of the Philistines. And yet that's what Shimshon does. And that's part of the challenge or the hypocritical nature of Shimshon, right? He won't drink wine. He won't go to the cemetery. He doesn't care about what anybody else thinks. His hair grows long. He's supposed to be devoted to God. And yet his actions don't look like somebody who is devoted to God, and many obviously different things have been written about it. Just one thing to note here is the word that's used here, right? Vayar, right? Isha ra'iti. Think back to the Shema where we talk about the tzitzit. You should look at your tzitzit. Velo taturu acharei levavchem v'acharei einechem. Look at your tzitzit. Be reminded of God. Don't go and just whatever you see, you take. And it brings us back to the beginning of the Torah, all the way back to Chava, who sees the tree and it looks nice, or the early stories in the Torah of these fallen angels or whatever they are, who see the women and desire them and abduct them. And so Shimshon, what we see is somebody who's following his eyes, simply what I desire, I want, and I will take. Now his parents are not so happy. And this is, this has been echoed many times. Vayomer lo aviv v'imo ha'ein bibnot achecho v'chol ami isha ki ata olech lakachat isha miplishtim ha'arelim. They say, is there no Jewish girl who's good enough for you? What is this? You need to, and this is not talking about somebody who converts. Oh, she's going to conversion class. They're saying, what are you looking over there? There are all these nice, lovely Jewish women here. Just take one of them to be your wife. No, she would have to agree. Vayomer Shimshon el aviv otakachli ki hi yoshra ve'enai. And Shimshon says to his father, get me that one because she is the one that pleases me. That is the one that I desire. Interestingly, in this verse, a word that we will come back to, the derogatory way of referring to the Philistines in scriptures is calling them the Plishtim ha'arelim, the uncircumcised Philistines, and we'll see that a couple more times in the, especially in the book of Shmuel. Va'avivimo lo yadu ki me Adonai ki to'anau v'akesh me Plishtim v'oitahi Plishtim moshlim b'Yisrael. This was a time period when the Philistines were ruling Israel, and his parents didn't know that this was not fully Shimshon's choice. This was God was sort of making him do it in order to get into a situation where he could go and begin to wage war against the Philistines. So he now goes with his parents. We're going down for a wedding, so the parents are going as well to Timnah. And when they get to the vineyards near Timnah, they see a full lion is coming roaring at them. Vatitzlach alav ruach Adonai, vayishasehu kishasa hagadi, umuma ein biado, velo higid le'aviv limo et asher asa. God's spirit envelops him again, and he rips the line with his bare hands, just like it was a kid, just like, maybe like a lion rips apart a kid. I don't know that I can rip apart a goat or a kid. And he doesn't tell his parents, right? Shimshon is hiding a lot of the ways in which he's going to save Israel from his parents, from the Jewish people. It's not obvious what he's doing, how he's going to be victorious. And he does this with his own hands. There's no weapons. And again, it's showing his nature. Obviously, we know about his strength, his incredible strength, but his nature, it's different. He's not telling anybody. He's doing things in a way that's unexpected. And he went down and he spoke to the woman. Now he had seen her. Now he even spoke to her. Amazing. And he was happy with her. He thought she was very lovely, very nice, and we should get married. And so sometimes later, he returns to marry her, right? It didn't all happen in one day that back then. And as he was going down, he looked to see, was the bones of the lion that he killed still there. And in the lion's skeleton, he found a swarm of bees with their honey. So it's very strange. I don't think this is a natural thing that happens, but the bees were producing their honeycombs inside the lion's skeleton. Vayiradehu el kapav, and he scooped it in his palms. He's scooping out the honey. And as he was walking, he was eating the honey. And now he goes back to his mother and father. You see this to also seeing some sort of analogy, right? He's not with his mother and father. He's doing it on his own. He's going to lap up those Philistines, just like he's lapping up this honey. And now he gives them to eat. So they will benefit ultimately from his victories. And he didn't tell them that it was from the honey that he scooped up out of the lion's skeleton. So his father came down to the woman, to this woman who he desires, unnamed woman, just like his mother has been unnamed in this whole story. This woman is unnamed, and Shimshon made a feast there as young men do. Just one thing that I wanted to note, in 2012, there were some Israeli archaeologists who found an ancient seal of some sort, which had a person seemingly with long hair. And there are very good pictures of it on the internet, although, it's hard to see this much detail, who is fighting with his hands some huge beast, and was found in this general area around Gaza. Forget exactly where it was found. And then, it like much biblical archaeology, it depends upon your perspective. And so those who want to prove the Bible, it's dated back to about the 11th century before the Common Era, say that this is, substantiating, but saying that this legend, the story of Shimshon, his superhuman strength, his fighting with the lion, was something that was known because we have this seal from all the way back then. And again, you can look it up. If you Google Samson seal or something of that sort, a Samson seal lion, you will find pictures of it on the internet. Coming back, Shimshon, so verse 11, I skipped. When they saw Shimshon, so they designated 30 companions to be with him, to eat a meal with him. There were going to be 30 men. And interesting, the number 30, we've had the number 30 a number of times in this book, of the judges who had 30 children and 30 children. So here we have Shimshon. He's not marrying a Jewish woman. He's in the Philistine territory, and it's not about his 30 sons who are riding on 30 donkeys or married. What is it about? There are 30 of the Philistine men who are his companions, who are with him at this point. He's the riddler. I'm going to give you a riddle. So if you can give me the right answer during these 7 days of feast, Sheva Brachot, I'll give you 30 garments, 30 linen tunics, 30 sets of clothing. ואם לא תוכלו להגיד לי, נתתם אותי לי 30 סידינים ו30 חליפות בגדים, ויאמרו לו, חודה חידתך ונשמע. So they say, okay, we'll take the deal. Either you get 30 or you have to give 30. And They say, let us hear your riddle. Vayomer lahem, me'ha'ochel yatsa ma'achal, u'me'az yatsa matok. Very nice and poetic. Out of the eater came something to eat, and out of the strong came something sweet. What is that referring to? 3 days, and they haven't been able to tell the riddle. They're thinking, they're racking their brain, they're not going to work, they're not doing anything else. They're just, what could this be about? So 7 brachos are ending. He gave them 7 days. It's the 7th day. They said to Shimshon's wife, and they come and they say to him, right, coax your husband to provide us with the answer to the riddle, or we are going to put your father's household to fire. Did you invite us here in order to impoverish us? We're going to have to buy all these things, and a couple of things in these verses. Number one, it's a repeat of the idea of fire. We talked about Shimshon, the Shemesh, the sun. When the angel comes, there's that fire, and the angel goes up in the fire. And here, the fire, right, is being reversed. We're going to use the fire to destroy your house. Shimshon obviously is going to be destruction, but not this type of destruction. It wasn't destruction to his Philistine wife. Also, this is not the first time we've had a threat of the destruction of your house through fire. After Yiftach, 2 chapters ago, didn't, according to the people of Ephraim, didn't call them out to war, even though he said, I did call you out to war. They say to him, why don't you call us out to war? How could you not include us in the wars of Israel? And we're going to burn down your house. And what happens there is Yiftach they don't burn down Yiftach's house. The people of Menashe, they destroy 42,000 members from the 42,000 men from the tribe of Ephraim. And so here too, we're sort of going to have a reversal. That is tragic for the Jewish people, not good for the Philistines, where they threaten to destroy the house. Here, it's not Shimshon's house directly; it's the house of his wife, his father-in-law. But we know that, of course, Shimshon is eventually going to. Things are going to work out for him. Vatefk Eshet Shimshon alav. And so Shimshon's wife, she comes and she cries to him, Vatomer, Rak Tani, you hate me. Velo Avtani, you don't love me. Achida Chadata Talivnei Ami, Velilo, he got it. You gave this riddle to my my colleagues, to my brethren, and you didn't tell me what it was. Vayomer la, hine lavi, uliimilo, he got it. He said, I didn't even tell my father and mother, I'm going to tell you, which is interesting because what it's showing is, and this is part of this whole idea of God sort of directing Shimshon. Here, the parents to me represent Bnei Yisrael. Shimshon said, I didn't even tell Bnei Yisrael what my plan is. I'm going to tell you what my plan is. I'm not really on your side. I didn't tell my parents. They think I'm on their side. They think I'm intermarrying. They don't think I'm going to help Israel. I'm going to marry a Philistine woman. I didn't tell them what my plan was. What's really going to happen? And I'm going to tell you. So that's not what he says to her. But that's, to me, what the text is saying to us. That's sort of the tension, what's behind the relationships that are going on here. And it's not a very good. This is not a very good description of a woman. She's a whiner. She's nagging him. You didn't tell me. You don't love me. It doesn't look very good. Okay. And what does it tell us? Vatefk alav shivat hayamim, right? It says that they only came to her in the middle, etc. But she is crying to him all 7 days. Asher hayalahem amishta. This is not the newlywed, honeymoon. This is her crying 7 straight days. And she nagged him and bothered him so much. He told her the answer, and of course, she immediately goes and tells her 30 fellow Philistines. So before sunset, they come to Shimshon and they say, Mama tok midvash, ume'az me'ari, vayomer lahem lulei charashtem be'eglati, lo mitzatem chidati. And they say to him, right? So they say, what is sweeter than honey and what is stronger than a lion? Right, so it's a lion and a honey, and he says back to them, also poetically, right? had you not plowed with my heifer, right? Lo charashtem be'eglati, if you had not plowed, is to plow with my heifer, my wife, then you would not have guessed my riddle. You guys came, you cheated, and that's how you got the answer. ותצלח עליו רוח אדוני וירד אשקלון ויך מהם 30 איש ויקח את חליצותם ויתן החליפות למגידי החידה ויחר אפו ויעל בית אביו. So what does Shimshon do? He goes and he kills 30 Philistines in Ashkelon in order to get clothing. He doesn't go and purchase clothing. That's not what he's going to do, because Shimshon is starting Lahoshiat Yisrael. It's going to come about in a strange way. It's going to come about here. It's not directly from these 30 men. But what does he do? He goes and he kills 30 men in order to give the 30 articles of clothing to these people. And then Shimshon is upset. He disappears. He doesn't like what happens. He leaves in a rage and he goes back home. And again, to me, analogous, the idea you think he's with the Philistine, you think he's with them. No. He's going home. This is a pretext. This is just a chance for him to start waging wars against the Philistines. And what happens is that they interpret it that way as well, because whether it's her father or somebody else takes Shimshon's unnamed wife, the one who has shown that she is not loyal to him, and she goes and she gives him the wife to another guy. This woman who Shimshon requested, Shimshon saw, Shimshon finally conversed with and said that she looks good to me, that he married, that she is just removed from him. He is invading into the culture of the Philistines. He's part of them in many ways, but he runs back to mommy and daddy. He'll run back to God. And that's part of the questions and part of the stories, and how far he goes in everything that he does wrong, and sort of this almost comedic idea in this chapter, right? He has to be close to God. He has to be a Nazir. What is a Nazir? No wine, no cemeteries, long hair, be separate from society, be closer to God. It doesn't seem that he's closer to God, because he's going and he is marrying, he's intermarried, he's marrying this Philistine woman. How is that making him closer to God? How is that bring? So it's all just a pretext, and it's all just a way, an non-classical, strange way that it's going about in order for Shimshon to go and begin to attack Bnei Yisrael. And again, one last thing, we'll conclude with this, which is that it has to be non-classical. It's what we said in last chapter. It has to be different, because Bnei Yisrael here, the cycle is broken. They are not calling out to God, and therefore their Moshiach is unknown to them. He's not telling it to them. It's many, many years of destruction and hardship for Bnei Yisrael, and it's something that's coming about in a way that has been different and decisively more troublesome and more challenging than any of the leaders over the past number of chapters.